Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and to whoever's tuned in to the Growing Our Future podcast, welcome. We have a special guest today. Her name is Maddie Barber from somewhere in Boerne, Texas. What's the high school again?
Boerne Champion.
Boerne, Texas. If y'all have never been there before, it is beautiful country. Would y'all consider that hill country?
Yes.
It is beautiful, beautiful place. A lot of times I tell people when you travel across Texas, you end up in places that don't even look like Texas. And Boerne is one of those through that hill country. It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for joining us today, Maddie.
Thank you for having me.
Maddie, every time we start one of these podcasts, I always ask guests the same question. So I'm just going to ask you the same question. What are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for my family and friends and the community. The many, many ways they've helped me.
Isn't that great, though?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the same way, by the way. I always tell people when you start out with an attitude of gratitude, you always just feel better. You look at things differently. You feel more positive. But when you don't look around and think, what am I grateful for? We tend to get a little negative. So I think starting with an attitude of gratitude is always a great place to start. Maddie, you're a junior. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Real quick, why don't you tell me about your FFA career, high school career? Tell me about kind of to where you're at right now. Tell me about, being a freshman, a sophomore, what you're doing this year and what you plan on doing when you graduate.
So I got into FFA when I was in 8th grade, and then I started high school and I actually knew better what I was doing. So in freshman year, I took Principles of Agriculture, where you learned about different breeds of animals and pretty much basics of how they work. So you went over everything. And then my sophomore year, I was an e-learner because the whole COVID pandemic left. And I took equine science, small animal management.
Okay.
And in small animal, you learned about dogs and cats and bunnies and all kinds of stuff. And then in equine, it was about horses and the different breeds and how they work inside and what they can provide. And then this year, I'm taking an advanced animal, which is about all the breeds, but more in depth. And then I'm taking livestock production, which is mainly about the cattle industry and how the industry works, how the cattle, basically just cattle management, how the feedlots go through work.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff. What are you going to do your senior year? What do you think you're going to take your senior year?
I am going to take practicum, where you actually work in the field of doing agriculture. So I plan to work at my ag teacher's swine barn, actually, helping her.
Wow, that sounds really good. Congratulations. I worked on a hog farm too, by the way. I ran 110 sow and boar with a 25 crate farrowing house. And wow. I did all that when I was a freshman in high school.
Wow.
Didn't know any better. I was at Boys Ranch. I just knew it was a job. And you just kind of did it. But it was a great experience. Well, I'm really happy for you. So in your high school experience, tell me have you participated in leadership development events, career development events? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I've competed in LDEs and leadership development events and CDEs, career development events, all 3 years. So my LDEs, they were advocacy, where you talk about how ag works and FFA works as a whole. And then my last 2 years, I did public relations. And that's basically the same thing, except you're talking more general. Like our subject last year was community service, how agriculture and FFA contribute to community service. And then for CDEs, I participate in milk quality,
Okay.
where where you are tasting the different defects in milk, like if it's salty or if it's rancid or if it's watery, and then cheese as well. So what kind of cheese this is, and then different questions like what's the milk fat, what's the butter fat, how many pounds of milk does it make to take this cheese.
Wow, good stuff. Did you do you have to watch Napoleon Dynamite? Is that part of being on the judging jury judging team?
My dad saw a video of that last year when I first did milk, and he was like, you could be like this. Yes.
So are you familiar with a man by the name of Dick Walrath? Okay. Mr. Walrath is the largest individual donor to the Texas FFA Foundation. And in the
Wow.
state of Texas, he's given over $30 million to 4-H and FFA kids. And they made a
That's
movie. They made a movie about him. And the movie stars Val Kilmer. It stars Elaine Hendricks from The Parent Trap. But the guy that plays Dick Walrath is Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite, John Grice. And so the guy that's in the movie Napoleon Dynamite plays the lead actor that plays Dick Walrath in the movie. Now here's a behind the scenes extra for you. They looked at casting a lot of really good actors. I mean, I know that there was interest in Robert Duvall, there was interest in Tim McGraw, but John Grice got the part of Dick Walrath for two reasons. Number one, his brother was an alcoholic, and so he knew what it was like to grow up in the home of an alcoholic. And then number two, because of his work on Napoleon Dynamite, he knew about the FFA. And so that's how he got the lead actor's job for Deep in the Heart.
Wow.
So now you know a little trivia that a lot of people don't know. So along your path, you've done LDEs, you've done CDEs. Sounds like you've really, I like what I'm hearing too. Are you a pretty good student academically?
Yes. I have all A's in my honors classes. So.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, to me, you sound like a pretty balanced student. And what I think, to your credit, you're doing is you're getting what I tell kids all the time. You're getting a competitive edge. So if you think about it, there's over 3,000 high schools in the state of Texas. They're all going to be graduating seniors. They're all going to be looking for jobs, scholarships, opportunities. So the thing is, always ask the question, what separates you from everybody else? Well, I think a lot of times in FFA, it's all the things that you're participating in. The leadership development, the career development.
With my FFA chapter as well. And I hope to be president next year.
Well, all of those things make a difference and they give you a competitive edge. So you did good through all that. So also, as you went through high school, what were some of your SAEs? Tell me about raising projects. Did you have projects your freshman, sophomore, and junior year?
Yes, I did. I always done a pig project, but this year I did better than any year I have done. Like, I placed at Houston, which that has never happened. And I've placed at San Antonio. That's also never happened.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is that with pigs?
Yes, sir.
Wow, very good. That's real good. Recently, you had an animal that you sold in a show.
Yes, sir.
And apparently you did something pretty extraordinary. So this is where we're going to get into why I wanted to interview you. By the way, I wanted you to know that I tried to make you the very first interview that I ever did for this podcast.
Thank you.
Because I am so inspired by your story. And we're going to share your story. So I gave everybody an opportunity to get the background of this young lady here and how she came into ag, what she's been doing. But what got my attention is what she recently did as a result of a very successful, was that a county stock show?
Yes, sir.
County stock show. So we're going to talk about that. Maddie, tell me about what you showed at that county stock show. Tell me how much money that animal brought. And then I want you to tell me what you did with that money and why.
So it was the Kendall County Junior Livestock Show, our county show. and I showed 2 barrows, boys, and 1 breeding gilt, the girl, and I sold that 1 barrow. It's a premium show because we have a show the next weekend, so kids don't have to buy another pig for that show. They can just keep their pig and show it there. So the people adding on money are just making a donation to you as a person so you can continue your project, or if you're a senior, it'll help with college. And so when I sold my 1 barrow, I asked my dad the day before if it would be okay if I like sold for St. Jude. And he was like, yeah, that's great. Go ahead. And so I was like, still like, eh. So the morning before the show started at 12. So I probably asked him around 9. And I was like, is it really okay if I do this? He's like, yes, Maddie, it's really okay. Don't worry. So we got to the show that morning, and sitting at the show barn, I wrote my note. And so it was big for my parents because I don't like talking about like what happened. Like my teachers didn't know for a while. That was kind of funny. But it was big that I like shared what had happened to me to a large group of people. Anyway, I went up there. Everything was kind of like a blur. I just saw all the cards go up once he read my little note, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. And then one person, once my money got to 13,000, they matched the entire thing. Wow. And so my jaw literally dropped, and I looked at my mom and I was like, oh my gosh, do you know what's happening right now? And then once it went to 30,000, the auctioneer was like, you did something great, awesome. And I was like, thanks, because I didn't really recognize what had just happened. But I got off stage, and my best friend, her name is Tabitha, she was down there waiting for me, and she gave me a giant hug, and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just made $30,000. And then Thornton, my ag teacher, came running up and was like, whoa, you're so awesome.
And so what did you do with that money?
So I donated every penny of it to St. Jude because they treated me for brain cancer when I was 11. I turned 12 in the hospital, and they saved my life. So they can buy like more equipment or improve their equipment and keep up their housing for families who are going through this, because they don't need to worry, especially about the financial part of it while they're struggling with this basically death sentence. But they have a reason to live. Like, no one fights alone.
You had an incredible story, Maddie.
Thank you.
For a number of reasons, by the way. Number one, I'll give you an example. I always ask people, I said, do you have a birthday? And everybody laughs, and they said, yeah, I got a birthday. I said, I do too. And I said, it's funny how we all start our lives is we all start with an inhale, and our lives begin as an inhale.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we all also serve a purpose. And I believe that when our purpose is done, all of our lives end with an exhale. And that life is really just a breath. And a lot of times we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing with our breath? And God has used your breath in an incredible way, because your story is very inspirational to people like me and many others that are going to listen to this podcast. And I think the reason why it's so inspiring is, one of the things that I share with the teachers and I share with the students is the essence of leadership is to plant trees under whose shade you may never sit. Now think about what you just did, Maddie. You made an investment in people that you're not going to meet them until you're in heaven one day. And in heaven one day, there's going to be somebody that walks up to you and said, I was 200 years after you, but because of what you did with that pig stock show money, my life was made better. And I think that is an incredible, incredible legacy, Maddie.
Thank you.
So you are an inspiration to so many for what you've done. And
Thank you.
I would say kudos to your mom and dad and whoever just gave you this incredible heart that you have. And I'm just proud that you're wearing the FFA jacket. And I'm going to challenge you. Okay, here's what I'm going to challenge you, Maddie. You have an incredible story. Matter of fact, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a story, but not everybody always shares their story. But you've been willing to share your story. And the thing about that FFA jacket is you put that jacket on and you zip it up and we look like everybody else. Nobody knew that you went through cancer treatment. Nobody knew that background. And unless that story would have been published, nobody would have known you did that. When you put that jacket on, you look just like everybody else. That means you got the same opportunity as everybody else. And I got to commend you for taking advantage of the opportunity and for not only saying it's important for me to wear this jacket with pride, but it's also important for me to exercise the core values that this jacket represents. And what do we do in agriculture? We steward things, we take care of things, we nurture things. And Maddie, you've nurtured mankind. You've nurtured children that will follow in our footsteps. You have planted trees that you may never sit under the shade that they produce. That's pretty important stuff, by the way.
Thank you.
When I think about your story, Maddie, and I think about what you did, why was it important to you to give back that way?
All of them there. Well, first of all, they saved my life. Like, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today if it weren't for them. Second, like, all of the nurses and doctors and specialists, they became like family to me. I was there for almost 8 months and I would see them every day. And they're always like, they knew my family, they knew my pets. Like, it was amazing. Like, when I was inpatient getting chemo, I would bring games with me and tell my child life specialist, her name is Sarah. And so if she couldn't be there, she would tell all the other child life specialists that came for the inpatient people, and they would all sit on the bed with me and play the little game while I was just getting my chemo.
Wow. Did you have any experiences along those way that were just really those standout moment experiences that you'd like to share?
Miss Jenny, she was one of the registrars. And shout out to her because she's amazing. She remembers me, like, even now. I go back every year now. Like, every year she remembers me. She might not know my name or anything else, but she knows my face. And that's like so amazing. And especially the nurse, one of them is Miss Nikki. She was my radiation nurse, but then she got moved to oncology. And so I went to oncology almost every day because it was in my brain. And like, we would see her at the store in Memphis when we would go. And I love her.
So just that day-to-day connection was something that you just never forgot.
Yes. And one of my doctors, he was actually a fellow at the time. He was from Taiwan, but he was so funny. And my grandpa came up to visit me, and he actually came like best friends. And he was like, whenever I come home from St. Jude, he's like, did you see Dr. Tanaka?
That's great. Maddie, if I could take you around Texas and I could take you to 1,082 FFA chapters and you could walk in and talk to every FFA member in Texas, what would you tell them about the importance of giving back to others?
It's super important. Like, especially like everybody has a chance now, since most of Texas, like the Cisco area, is engulfed in wildfires right now. And at Tarleton, our next competition, there's a place where you can donate supplies to all of those people in need, because like they couldn't do anything. They have the clothes on their back, their homes are destroyed, everything they had is destroyed. Like, they are struggling immensely.
So, Maddie, one of the things that you said that I really appreciate, by the way, this is what I share with high school kids all the time. You can go through life taking a lot. We can go through life saying, you know, buy my fruit, buy my sausage, buy my animal, give me that scholarship. We can go through life taking a lot. But I will tell you that the further you get up the food chain, it's harder to take. When you get to college, it's a little harder to take. When you get out in the working world, it's a little harder to take. When you become an adult, it's a little harder to take. But when we flip that script and we learn how to give to others, when we learn how to meet a need, look at what you can do in a high school. As a high school student, you saw a need, you're willing to support a need. When you go to college, you're going to be able to see a need, you're going to be able to support a need. When you move into a career and into a community, you're going to be able to see a need. When you give of yourself, the opportunities only get larger. When you get selfish and you try to take, the opportunities get smaller. So the fact that you're developing this heart of giving, I think, is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share to all the FFA members or all the teachers that are watching that you would tell them about your FFA experience?
Thank you to both of my teachers. As like, for one of my teachers, I probably wouldn't be showing things without her, because I really had no knowledge before she came in and explained what to do and how to do it. And like at the shows, both of my teachers are there. And like when I got pinned in San Antonio, they ran over and were like, "Great job, Maddie, woohoo!" And they're amazing. And I know every ag teacher out there is trying to do the same thing and is doing the same thing. And just at least they know one person appreciates all of them.
I'm not even going to try to say another word because that was the perfect ending to this interview. Maddie, thank you so much for joining us. And I appreciate your teacher too. Your teacher went on our lead trip, so I got to know your teacher. And I appreciate what she's doing there and her arranging this time for us to visit. Again, thank you for your story to your mom and dad. Thank you for raising such an incredible young lady. Maddie, to your future, I hope that you will always continue to remember that your heart for investment and the gift that you've been giving, you are blessing people that follow in your footsteps, not just by what you give, Maddie, but it's by your words. It's by your example. Words cost nothing. And your willingness to share your testimony and your story, it's powerful. And I will tell you, it will change lives for the rest of your life. And I believe that your story will be used to touch the future in an incredible way. So keep on keeping on. As I always say in this podcast, if you want to know what the future is, you got to grow it. If you want to know what the future is, you got to grow it. You got to plant seeds, you got to nurture them, and you got to grow the future you want. Today's episode is about planting seeds of stewardship. It's about planting seeds of the heart. It's about paving a better way, appreciative of the gifts that we've been giving and how we can bless others with our stories and with the gifts that opportunities we've been given. And this young lady right here, Maddie, she's living proof of that. Thank you for joining us today, Maddie. Good luck in your rest of your high school career. And if we can ever be of service to you, please don't ever hesitate to call. Say goodbye to everybody, and we'll catch them next time on the next episode.
Bye.